I'm 29 years old. Recently got a message from my parents whom I haven't spoken to in 5 years. They need my help. More specifically, they want me to help my brother. They always treated my 31-year-old brother Craig like the golden child. They never even tried to hide it because he used to excel at everything, especially school. They never let me forget it, constantly reminding me that he was doing much better and that I needed to step up if I wanted to be on his level. Craig went to a great college, and 5 years ago, he became the youngest VP in his company's history. He had been working there since graduation and was making good money right from the start. But once he made history as the youngest VP, his prestigious corporate job became the ultimate standard for my parents, and they never stopped rubbing my face in it. Honestly, I never wanted the 9-to-5 life. Sure, that lifestyle has its perks, but I've always dreamed of being an entrepreneur ever since I learned what the word meant. 5 years ago, after working at a few companies and gaining knowledge in a field I was passionate about, I finally decided to open my own business, a modern and stylish car tuning shop that I designed myself. I spent enough time on research and development, and I had a solid business plan, so I decided to discuss it with my parents first. Despite how differently they treated me and my brother, I believed they also wanted the best for me. After all, they're my parents. So I told them about my plans 2 days after a party they threw to celebrate my brother's new promotion. I expected some sort of feedback, but instead, they just started laughing and said I must be playing a prank on them. They thought it was an absolute embarrassment that, after all those years of studying, my grand idea for a future business was car tuning. I told them I was serious, but they advised me not to quit my job because they would be ashamed to call their son a failure. They were convinced my business was doomed from the start because I wasn't competent enough, and compared to my brother, they didn't want me to screw up so badly, so I should just stick to my current job. I was insulted, and we got into a huge argument. I told them I was going to open the business anyway, with or without their support. They said I was free to do whatever I wanted, but I'd have to face the consequences alone. If I went through with my idea, they would be forced to cut me out of their lives because I'd be a disgrace to them, and they were already sure of it. They also said they were tired of introducing their sons as one VP of a prestigious company and one 25-year-old guy who was still trying to figure out what he wanted to do in life. They had been meaning to have this talk with me for a while, and finally they gave me an ultimatum. Either I keep building a career at my current job and stop embarrassing them, or I do what I want, make a fool of myself, and lose my family. I think it's obvious what I chose. I cut them out of my life and haven't spoken to them since. Since then, I haven't kept in touch with my brother either because, naturally, he took my parents' side. But I'm fine with that. He was always too arrogant anyway, so I never really wanted anything to do with him from the start. Proving them wrong. I had worked with cars for a long time, and that's where the idea for my business came from. I believed in it. I knew it was something people needed, so I decided to take the risk and prove my parents wrong. I quit my job and started moving toward my goal. Yes, it was a risky move, and I wouldn't say it's something to brag about. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but it worked out for me. Within a few months, I found investors and launched my business. At first, it was incredibly hard. I was literally living paycheck to paycheck and relying purely on word of mouth. But the more people found out about my shop, the more customers rolled in. About a year and a half later, the business really started gaining momentum. Now I'm doing great. I have my own apartment, and it's pretty nice. I live in a great neighborhood, drive a good car, and honestly, I have everything I dreamed of from the very beginning. I won't say I'm a millionaire, but I definitely make enough, and I certainly can't call myself the failure my parents made me out to be. So you could say I proved them wrong, and that genuinely makes me happy. It makes me so happy that I don't even feel the need to rub my victory in their faces. It's just not worth it. Over the last 5 years, I haven't tried to contact them once. In that time, I even married my girlfriend, whom I had been dating for 8 years, and we've been married for 2 years now. And last month, we found out we're expecting a baby. So many huge milestones have happened in my life, but I never felt the urge to tell my parents. They know where to find me. They just have to ask any relative. Plus, I know they are aware of what's going on in my life because I keep in touch with the rest of the family, and they tell me my parents often ask about me, but they never try to reach out themselves. I guess that's their way of coping with the situation. The audacity. Anyway, last week they finally decided to text me and asked if I wanted to meet up. I talked it over with my wife and she said I should go and see what they wanted to talk about. Their message didn't have any details, so I didn't know what to expect, but I drove to their house anyway. When I arrived, they greeted me pretty warmly, but I immediately felt something was off. Even when I lived with them, they were never this nice. So, while they were trying to make small talk, I knew it was just the prelude to something bigger. Finally, they got to the point. They said they heard how well my business was doing and invited me over to congratulate me. They didn't apologize, but they claimed they were glad I was able to prove them wrong and that their past skepticism was completely unjustified. Well, that was nice to hear, I suppose, and I didn't even know what to say, so I just smiled. But then they started explaining that Craig had hit a rough patch over the last couple of months. His company went through hard times, there were mass layoffs, and even the upper management was let go, including him. So for the last 4 months, he's just been sitting at home doing nothing. My parents said he tried looking for a new job, but after spending so many years at one company, he just didn't know where to start and was heavily stressed out by everything that happened. I thought it was weird they were even bringing him up since there was nothing I could do about his situation, so I just listened, waiting to see where this was going. Finally, they got to the core of it and asked if I could hire my brother. According to them, he is so depressed right now that he can't even apply for a new job, and all the offers he's getting are significantly lower than his previous salary, so he really needs help. My parents wanted me to offer him a high-ranking position in my company with a great salary, saying he could bring his experience into my business. I didn't know what to say to that, so I told them I needed time to think and that I'd give them an answer later. I purposely didn't say yes because I simply didn't know how to react. I should have guessed they reached out to me for a reason. They had plenty of opportunities to do this earlier, but they never did. They looked so pleased with themselves, as if they expected I would definitely agree. But when I got home, I thought long and hard about it, and after discussing it with my wife, I decided to decline. My wife works at a bank and has nothing to do with my business, but she said that I make the professional decisions, and she doesn't want to interfere. If I feel like I can't work with my brother, then that's that. Besides, she doesn't believe my parents actually wanted to reconcile. They just needed me to bail Craig out, so I have absolutely no reason to agree to their request. After all, I never promised to help them, which means I don't owe them anything. I wasn't going to tell them my answer right away because I knew the second I said no, they would instantly paint me as the bad guy. I tried to avoid the conflict, but they started texting me every single day asking for my decision, and I just ignored their messages. Well, 2 days ago they called and demanded an answer. That's when I told them I had thought it over, and after much consideration, I realized I couldn't work with Craig, and I didn't want him working with me. We never got along, and I don't feel like I owe him or my parents this kind of favor. After that, they absolutely lost their minds. They started screaming, bringing up everything they ever did for me, how they raised me, provided for me, and bought me whatever I wanted as a kid. And now, when they were counting on my gratitude, I was turning my back on them and pretending I owed them nothing. I found this completely unfair. They took care of me because I was a child and depended on them, not because they were doing me a favor. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the current situation anyway. I tried to explain that the only reason for my refusal was that I wouldn't be able to work with my brother, and they shouldn't be screaming at me over it. Furthermore, we hadn't spoken in 5 years because they explicitly told me they didn't believe in me and they didn't invest a dime in my business. So they have zero right to expect they can boss me around now. But they kept screaming, claiming they only reached out after 5 years because they figured I had finally forgotten everything since I'm doing well now. And in their eyes, I'm just being petty, clinging to old grudges and refusing to help my own family. They reminded me that Craig is my brother, and since he's in a tough spot right now, I need to step up and support him. They even had the nerve to say that if I were in his shoes, he would do the same for me. They swore that if my business had failed, they would have supported me, which is why I am now obligated to do the same for them. The argument got more chaotic and tense until I finally said I didn't want to talk to them anymore. After that, I just hung up and blocked their numbers. Since then, I felt really weird, and I can't quite sort out my feelings regarding their claim that they would have helped me if I had been in Craig's position. I talked to my wife about it, and she said they're only saying that because I didn't actually end up in his position, and they're just trying to manipulate me. She said I shouldn't fall for it, especially since they didn't even apologize, but still expect me to bail him out. Craig was never kind to me growing up, and I was constantly picked on, so I know she's right. But despite that, I still have this weird, lingering sense of guilt. I don't know. I just feel strange about this whole situation. Am I the asshole for refusing to hire my brother after he lost his job? Thank you to everyone who replied to my post. It's been some time since I last spoke to my parents, and honestly, I've come to realize that my refusal isn't that big of a deal. It's not like my brother will never be able to find a job again. I just personally don't want to work with him. Like I said, I discussed it with my wife, and we both decided not to change our minds, but my parents are clearly furious about it. They've gone around the entire family telling stories about how I've always been jealous of my brother and that I'm now rejoicing at the opportunity to screw my family over. I really don't understand why they are overreacting like this, especially considering they are literally messaging every single relative just to complain about me. The relatives aren't even asking them anything. They're just going out of their way to text them and whine. It's completely ridiculous, and to me, it feels like they're just trying to grab attention. But I'm not going to play along. No matter what they do, I'm not unblocking them or discussing this with them. Some of the relatives they messaged sent me screenshots, and I replied explaining the whole situation. Honestly, they already knew anyway. For the last 5 years, my parents and I would cross paths at family events and not say a word to each other, so most people were well aware of our complicated relationship. But now they've crossed a line by trying to drag other people into this and paint me as the villain. Either way, after I cleared things up, most of my relatives told me I shouldn't worry about my parents at all. They aren't going to judge me because they know what happened in the past, and they realize my parents are just being overly dramatic right now, which is a relief. Honestly, I have more important things to focus on. My wife is pregnant, and I don't want to waste my time on this drama. We were planning to announce it in a couple of weeks, but now I'm thinking of doing it sooner so my parents will finally take the hint and stop harassing me. I think it's a good idea, though I'm not entirely sure it'll work because my parents are pretty heartless people. They might even try to keep pressuring us despite my wife's pregnancy. You can expect anything from them, that's for sure.